Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Brunig. I'm an occupational therapist at Owl Therapy Services. And I realized with Chris's presentation that I should probably talk about what occupational therapy is. An occupation in terms of occupational therapy is anything you do to occupy your time. So that's pretty broad. As a pediatric occupational therapist, a lot of occupations that I look at for kids to participate or become more independent with include social participation, school participation, daily morning routine things like getting dressed, brushing teeth, etc., social engagement, and more. So one thing that occupational therapists really look at that can impact participation and engagement is sensory processing and the way that an individual takes in that sensory input, that information through all of their senses, processes it in their own individual way and responds accordingly. And today we're talking about the eighth sense, interoception. So I'd like to talk with you about what is interoception, why is it important, what does it look like when somebody has inaccurate interoceptive awareness, and the big question, how can interoceptive awareness be taught? So I wanted to start with asking you, how do you feel? I'd like to answer that. What are you feeling right now?
In a rush from the day.
Yeah.
Busy day.
You feel rushed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel nervous.
Yeah, you feel nervous. Okay. Are you okay, or is it like too much nervous, or?
It's more nervous than I would like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're nervous.
Okay.
I'm tired.
Tired? Yeah. Feel like you're okay enough to listen, or is it starting to feel like too much, or?
No. I second that.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah. Right. So I wanted to talk with you about how I'm feeling. So I would say, based on my past experiences, I'd say in general, when I talk in front of a group of people, I feel nervous or anxious. And based on my previous experiences and adding up all of those things I feel inside my body, I know that I feel a certain type of nervousness when talking in front of people. So I know from the past that how I feel is my hands get really shaky. My voice has felt shaky when I do this. My chest feels tight and my heart starts beating faster. I notice that my mouth feels kind of clammy and maybe kind of dry. I've noticed with my previous experiences and learning from them that something that helps me is having something physically in front of me that helps me feel safe. And it's important to be safe, but it's also very, very important to feel safe. Because, you can repeat this after me, safety is the foundation of everything. And if someone does not feel safe, that's going to be affecting everything. So also with noticing those things in the past, I'm knowing that just doing nothing, this would have felt like too much for me. I know that to account for those feelings in my body, I can have a drink of water available. So not only does that help with my mouth feeling less like tacky and clammy, that heavy sucking through the straw helps me feel more grounded and calm. I know that this heavy proprioceptive input through my hands with this therapy helps me feel more grounded and calm and less shaky. I know that when I'm in that higher state of arousal with nervousness, I tend to speak more quickly. So I'm consciously slowing down my speech to be able to do what I need to do, which in this case is speaking in front of all you. So what is interoception? Interoception is the sense of feeling what is going on inside of our bodies. So am I feeling hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I having to use the toilet? Am I in pain? Am I feeling sick? Am I feeling tired? It gives us information about our emotions. How do I feel when I'm sad or happy or angry or excited? With time, this sense is refined and developed. And it develops differently in different people. But again, what's really cool is we can facilitate this. We can teach it. We can bring awareness to those sensations because it starts with noticing. And then as we learn to notice and have all these different experiences of noticing, it makes our internal experience more vivid. It helps us to apply that to other situations and label it and know how to interpret that. It helps us know, am I feeling mad? Am I feeling a little mad or really, really mad? Is this too much? Do I need to stop and make a change? So this cover is from a book written by Kelly Mahler, who's an occupational therapist, who has done a lot of research in this area of interoception. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is evidence-based, based on her work and her research and what she has found. One thing I like to make mention of when working with families is, and with talking about interoception, is no one else knows what it's like to be in your body. Only you know that. No one knows what it's like for me and what I'm feeling right now. You can make guesses based on your observations, but no one else really knows. So with these kids, I can make some guesses of these pictures of how these kids might be feeling by making objective observations. I can see the child in the upper left is smiling and raising their hands above their head. Like I don't really know how he's feeling though. Is he feeling excited or proud or this child who has her hands over her mouth and her eyes are up, or her eyes are bigger, her eyebrows are up. Maybe she's feeling surprised or maybe excited. I don't know. Maybe emotions are complicated too because you could feel more than one thing at a time. And interoceptive awareness is something that, with all those different sensations and adding those up can give us information of what someone might be feeling. So what I did is an example of curiously checking in, like, are you feeling excited? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling mad? Another example of the reason why we curiously check in is in the past, before I learned more about interoception, and I still do this, but I do a lot of what I like to call sports casting. So I just kind of narrate as objectively what's happening with the child. So I might say like, oh, like you're moving around really fast, which is an objective observation. But I also might have in the past said, I see you're smiling, you're feeling happy. And I'm making a jump, that's a bit of a jump because, like they might be feeling happy. However, sometimes people smile when they're nervous. I don't really know what they're feeling, but just drawing attention to what I'm seeing and what's happening and curiously checking in will help bring awareness to that child of like, like I am smiling, how am I feeling? And having them stop and notice. That's where it starts. And then also, we can model what it's like to what we're feeling and interpret that for emotions or body states or whatever. So why is interoception important? Well, we have what's called homeostatic sensations. So those are the sensations of, am I hungry? Am I tired? Do I have to go to the bathroom? Am I thirsty? Am I feeling sick? And those have some obvious reasons of why they're important. If you have to eat something or use the toilet or take a rest, that sort of thing. And then we have our affective sensations, which are more of the emotional states. So again, it's important because we need to be able to feel and know, do I need to stop and make a change, or am I okay enough to keep going and moving forward? Again, why is interoception important? There is evidence that it's really hard for a person to understand someone else's emotion unless we really feel ourselves what an emotion means. And again, it's hard because this is complicated. There are all sorts of emotions. You can feel more than one thing at once. There are different intensities of emotions. Like I said, even with the emotion of like feeling anxious or nervous, there are different types of that too. I'm a certain type of nervous. When I speak in front of people, that might be a different type of nervous than when I'm anticipating the results of a test or something like that. I chose this visual because I find it amusing that, a lot of times people are taught emotions by showing pictures. And according to this picture, I'm happy when I'm smiling, and I'm also proud when I'm smiling. But I could be in love when I'm smiling, but then the little hearts float above your head. So that's how you know the difference. Or maybe I'm disappointed in that and I'm a little bit not smiling. What do you think about? So there's a lot of things I could say about the zones of regulation, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to talk about interoception. So the zones of regulation, basically it's labeling arousal levels. And a lot of schools use this to label kids or to ask kids where they're at with the zones. If a child does not know what it feels like to be in the green, they're making a guess that they're in the green zone when they're being asked. They might be saying, I'm in the green zone because they think it's what an adult wants to hear. They might say, I'm in the red zone because maybe somebody has told them that in the past, but if they're not really feeling it, then, this loses its meaning to that specific child. I've worked with kids in the past and presently, who have a hard time feeling the different intensities of the arousal level. So maybe a kid might think they're either green or red and there's no in between because they can't feel that. And a lot of times adults give these kids these strategies to make a change, and they have them and they use them when they feel okay. But when they get to a point where they're moving really fast or they're feeling, all the signs of feeling anxious or moving toward overwhelm, they can't. It's because they're not feeling the subtle rise until it's too late, and then they can't access it. So that's another reason why interoception is important, because if you teach a child to feel I'm shifting, I'm going to use a strategy before I shift too much where it's not, I can't access it, I can't use it. So again, kind of the example that I used when I first started, it starts with noticing, being aware, being just feeling, okay, I'm feeling all of these sensations in my body when I present in front of a group of people. I know that all of those sensations together mean the body state of anxiety. So I know that it would be too much to just keep going and not do anything about it. So I'm mobilized to act. The action I'm taking are the things that are in front of me right now, so I can regroup, be okay enough to keep going because my anxiety is now reduced. So on the side here, it also talks about self-regulation. So regulation is a term that I feel like is thrown out a lot without being defined. How I would define regulation is moving away from a state of overwhelm. So if somebody is moving toward a state of overwhelm and they are able to bring themselves back, or somebody else uses their co-regulation to bring that person back, that's what regulation is. Moving toward overwhelm and moving into a state of overwhelm would be dysregulation. So let's talk about inaccurate interoception. So maybe a person is feeling something in their body, but it's not quite right. So if somebody has a signal that's too small, an easy example would be if somebody is developing a sense of being able to know when their bladder is full to the point where they need to use the toilet and they can't just keep going. If that signal is too small and they're not picking up on it until maybe, oh, it's too late, and then they didn't have time to get to the bathroom. Another example of one of these things is with the child raising their hand to leave the classroom. That might be for a variety of reasons, but I think it's important to give kids the benefit of the doubt. Because maybe this child is raising their hand and they're asking to go to the bathroom 30 times in a class, and that does happen. And it could be for a variety of reasons, but maybe they have inaccurate interoception awareness. So maybe they, everybody's bodies are always filling up with pee and poop. Maybe that signal is too big for them. And they're feeling, it's filling up a little bit, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. Or maybe their signals inside their body are distorted, where this child is really nervous about the work that they're going to be doing, and they're feeling something in maybe their stomach, and they're misinterpreting that as my bladder is really full. Another example would be, if a child is not registering a signal of fullness. So if that signal of fullness is too small for that to register, the child just keeps eating and eating and eating, even though their body is full, but they're not sensing that signal is too small. Another example of a signal being too big or distorted could be a child who always is saying, I'm sick, I'm not feeling well. Parents or adults might think, oh, they're trying to get out of it. They're just, pulling one over on you, but maybe they really are feeling something in their body and they're interpreting it as, I feel sick. Maybe their heart's beating really fast, and maybe they have been sick in the past where their heart's beating fast and they're trying to figure out what that means. Or they're misinterpreting something else as feeling ill. So what should we do? That's the big question, right? We know these things happen. We probably all are thinking of specific kids in our mind, but what do we do about it? That's what's important, right? So what's really cool is, we can teach interoception, we can teach that awareness, but as we're teaching it, we might need to make an adaptation while that child is learning to interpret those signals accurately. And then if your child needs more than what you can provide them with making an adaptation and improving awareness, then occupational therapists are a great resource. If your child already receives OT, you can talk to them about adding in interoception. So that will help in all sorts of areas of their life. So let's talk about some adaptations. So for environmental cues, you could have things like schedules, alarms, routines. Say, for example, if your child is overeating and they're not able to feel the signals when they're full, that might be something where maybe you talk with a dietitian or a nutritionist to know like how much of each food group and the quantity should my child be taking in before we stop and move on, so that you can provide them with what they need. Be like, no, we're done, and that's just the cue that you're moving on. For toileting, that's a pretty obvious one. If you just bring your child to the bathroom every hour to try, sometimes you'll have hits, sometimes you'll have misses, but you'll have it on a routine for them to have the opportunity as they're learning that interoceptive awareness. Another example would be, as if we're thinking about emotions and arousal levels, we can make observations, and as an external person in their environment, we can prompt them to use a strategy while they're building that awareness to be able to use it themselves. Again, I think it's hard because a lot of times adults get frustrated that these kids have these tools, we know these help them feel better and feel okay enough, but they're not using it. But that's a signal that we need to help them use it when they need it. And then they can continue to practice building that awareness to use it eventually themselves when they need it. But as the supporting adult, I need to prompt them to see when they need it. And then with that practice too, hopefully they can feel like, oh, that did make me feel better. And that's good awareness for future situations also. So for an example of that would be, say if a child is, doing some homework or something, and you can see that, they're starting to clench up a little bit, or they're gritting their teeth, and that kicking on a TheraBand helps regroup them. So you might have to prompt them to do that. Or, maybe say like, okay, let's take a break and let's like chew on, like take a big sip of water, or take a deep breath or something. If that works for the child at the time. So again, I feel that with my clients, I have I feel strongly about having mutual respect, and to keep in mind to do these things in a respectful way. So if your child's like, I hate it when you tell me to use the toilet every hour and announce it to the world, then find a way and work with the child, like, a different way to do that that's respectful of them and what they're working on. So let's do some practicing. So with Kelly Mahler's research, she's found that starting with external cues is helpful, and just starting with practicing noticing, practicing thinking about how all these different things feel for me personally. And when I say me, I mean all of you and your children. And then as we develop that and become proficient with that, moving toward inside of our bodies, which is trickier, it's harder. So I want you right now to think about how your hands feel. Would anyone like to answer that one? Chilly. Yeah. Cold, chilly.
Like mine are warm.
Warm.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody's different, and yeah, you guys.
My mom's hands are always cold, so she tortures us by putting them on the backs of our necks.
Yeah.
It's really.
So she would say cold right now, and if she touched them to your neck, it sounds like you would.
Yeah.
Shudder. Okay. Anyone else?
Tingly.
Tingly. Okay.
Hopefully that's normal.
Where are they tingly? Does it feel like too much, or is it okay?
Okay, it was
Okay.
nothing until I had thought about it. And I could feel and then it felt tingly, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And drawing awareness too. Yeah, it can help bring awareness. Just shifting that can help to understand something that we might have just habituated to otherwise too. So next I want to shift the way that your hands feel. So let's try rubbing them on whatever textured fabric, maybe the chair or your lap. So that's gonna shift the way your hands are feeling. What are you noticing?
They're no longer clenched tightly.
Well, they were tight, now they're not. Okay.
Got warmer.
warmer. So I'm feeling with my hands too, again, we're talking about external sensations. I feel, my pants feel like a tiny bit bumpy, like a little smooth. So that's getting more vivid with what I'm feeling. A lot of times kids, if they have a poor interoceptive awareness, they might say good. So I would challenge that child to dig a little bit further and increase that map and what that really, that feels good. What part feels good? And then just even joining them in that activity and modeling how it feels for you. Might not even be necessarily how they're feeling, but it gives them information for knowing for the future. Let's try clapping your hands.
Do it too long or too hard, it starts to hurt.
So it's too much if you do it for a longer period of time. Okay. Anyone else?
I feel more
Awake. Oh, that's a good word. Your hands feel awake. I like that. And that's the thing too is, there's no right or wrong answer. Everybody feels things differently. Everybody has different words to describe things based on their past experiences. One thing I should talk about too is with non-speaking children or individuals, this is still something that can be taught. So, they might not have the word to say what they're feeling, but just stopping and drawing attention to something and noticing and then modeling or just making an observation can help them to notice themselves too and tune in. All right. Let's move on to our feet. How do your feet feel right now?
Mine feels very warm.
Warm, okay.
What if I tell you they feel normal?
Okay, they feel normal. I wonder what that means to you. Like, do they feel?
But the other word,
okay?
the other word I can think of is they feel fine.
Yeah.
That can
Like,
Yeah. I wonder what would happen if I asked you to think about how your big toe is feeling.
I have a broken big toe. That's why she's laughing at
Does it feel
me.
fine?
So no, my big toe does not feel fine.
Oh, that's interesting though, because you said your feet feel fine. But then we talked about increasing the localization that drew your attention to that area and that changed your response. Something to notice. Okay.
What did you say?
So she's a plant in the audience.
Yeah, so that's just something to practice. Just tuning in is helpful, but what if you tune in and then you tune in further? Then that might shift. And that really specific localization is really vivid, refined interoceptive awareness. So, that's something that you can dig into and stay curious and see, because maybe your feet do feel fine. I don't know. But let's take this a little bit further.
Because like when you ask how things feel, to me, my answer is they feel normal.
Yeah.
They don't feel, they feel fine, they feel normal, they don't feel anything. Maybe this is why my son has trouble, because I have trouble explaining what they feel.
Yeah, in our culture, we're taught to not tune in. We're taught to keep going and not think about right now. And even more, we're not taught to think about what I feel like. And even more, we're not taught to think about what I feel inside of my body.
Right.
So it takes practice. And that's something that I'll talk about again in the future too, but just practicing it ourselves is going to help ourselves and know just things about ourselves and how we respond to them. And then that will in turn help the other people in our lives.
So related to that, when I give that answer for my kids, like normal or fine, I tend to break it down, especially for younger kids, to a binary. Like, oh, I wonder how fine feels to you. Does it feel wet or dry? Does it feel smooth or rough? Does Does that work too? Is that an okay
Yes,
way to respond?
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I feel like making it more concrete, because it's such an abstract question. How do you feel? How does it feel? It's a very abstract question. So the more concrete I can make it, the more my kiddos tend to be able to respond.
Yeah.
Oh, it feels more wet than dry. It feels more smooth than dry.
Yeah. And when somebody asks how you're feeling, how often do they really want to know?
Not very
Thank
often,
you.
because if you tell them, then they like, don't like it.
And that's what we're taught. So then why should I tune in? Why is that important? But it is important. All right, good talk.
With me, like I don't have the exact words for it, but like when I focus on part of my body, it's like the nerves that are sending like more detailed information, so it feels different from how it did when I wasn't paying attention to it, or it feels different from parts of me that I'm not paying attention to. It's kind
Yeah,
of interesting.
absolutely. Yeah, and just that practice of tuning in and zooming in, that is going to help with practicing that and noticing that for the future. Because again, how do I feel? Am I feeling okay enough, or do I need to make a change? It starts with knowing ourselves, unless someone's there to help us. Love that part. You guys are summing up my presentation already, but that's okay. This is all good. All right, so let's talk about shifting our feet and how our feet can feel. So let's try wiggling our toes. I wonder what you guys are noticing with that as far as the sensation. How does it feel?
Just that because they're in shoes.
Stuck. How does that feel to you?
Not so good.
It's too much? Okay, too
Yeah,
much making a change.
That's too much.
Doesn't feel good. I don't like feeling stuck.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Mine feel cozy.
Cozy, that's a nice word.
My little toes feel so clammy when they touch each other. I wish I
Wow.
had like some powder.
So you know what you would need to make a change to feel
Make a
okay.
change.
Yeah.
I just got new like little insoles from Target for the shoes, so they're really squishy now.
Ooh,
They're
nice.
brand new.
What part of your toes feel squishy? Is it everywhere or certain parts or?
The flat parts.
Okay. Feel like rubbing, like how would I describe that? Like the friction, between my toes. How about, what if we kick our feet really fast? How does that feel? Kind of feel that in my whole body when you do that. What are you guys noticing? Sparkly. Ooh, really sparkly.
Feels like a hug.
A hug. Okay. You feel a hug like everywhere on your foot, or
Well, we'll see on my toes because that's what I'm doing.
your toes feel most huggy?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. So there's a lot of different ways we can do this. But again, practicing, noticing, tuning in, and then if there's a shift, what does that feel like? Noticing that. Let's move inside. And there are, I'll pause. I want you to focus now, right now. How does your heart feel right now? Steady. Okay. It's funny when I work with kids who have a hard time with interoception, sometimes they go put their hand on their stomach. Oh, what's my heart feel? So that localization is not quite there yet. Anyone else?
It's cold.
Calm. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes I talk with kids about how it's kind of tricky to know how my heart feels if I feel okay or fine because I don't really feel it as much. Let's try shifting this. So let's try doing some quick shallow breaths. Sometimes it takes a little bit for our hearts to catch up to that shift. Anybody feel a shift in their heart? Does it feel different? What did you notice?
Now it feels fast.
Fast? Mm-hmm.
Started.
Jump started. It's a good word, yeah. Anyone else? There are all sorts of reasons why our hearts beat faster. Maybe we're moving a lot. Maybe our breathing changed. Maybe those two are intertwined in the situation. Maybe different emotions. I find that if a child has been taught to think of an emotion in a negative way, it helps to bring it back to the body. As an OT, I feel that there are no bad emotions, it's information. So if a child has been taught, like, you know, you're mad, that's not okay, bringing it back to that interoception, that body level, that body-based awareness can help with dropping that and tuning in a way that feels better to them. Let's try some long, deep breaths. What are you noticing in your heart? Feels calm. Bigger. Yeah. I feel like my heart is bunking more, but less fast. Yeah, I like using the terms like bumping or thunking or pounding to, like, you know, get a variety of terms. And what kids tend to do with that modeling is they find a term that resonates with them, and then they can use that within their own situation to describe how their own body feels. What about some quick movements? Ooh. What are you noticing with your heart? Did that shift your heart? Lighter. I feel like mine's being faster, but then not bumping as hard. It's like a light bump. But yeah, I think heart rate is a great one to really, if your child is at the point of exploring that, because it really impacts. It's a really good sign of where we're at with our arousal level. And if something is starting to feel like too much, and then if we can make a shift, that sort of thing. All right, let's go to our muscles. And what's tricky about muscles is we have a lot of different muscles in different places. So what about, let's start with thinking about right now, how the muscles feel in your jaw area.
I'm gonna say tight.
Tight, okay. Yeah.
When I relax in my jaw, the muscles feel almost like heavy.
Heavy. I can see, yeah, heavy is a good description word for muscles. Mm-hmm. What about shifting that, like tightening and relaxing our muscles in your jaw? I wonder what that does.
Allows it to feel more relaxed afterwards.
Yeah, what the change? What about the muscles in like your neck and shoulders? What are you noticing with how that feels? I tend to hold a lot of tension here. Right. Yeah. So let's try bringing our shoulders up to our ears. And when you bring your shoulders up? They were feeling tight before. How do they feel now? More tight, working with that intensities. And then
And activated when they're up.
activated,
Smushed.
smush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what our kids would say, you know?
Yeah.
It feels smushy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I wonder about after. What feels different than before?
Loose.
More loose,
More hangy.
more hangy, yeah. Hangy. What about the muscles in your hands? I wonder how inside your hands.
I feel less clenched after all the clapping. and
Yeah.
everything on the hands.
What about a few? Oh, how does that feel? What?
So nice.
So nice, feels nice. I wonder what nice means to you.
Yeah, it's like I can feel energy going through my hands, and then when I do that, it smooths it out.
Ooh, I like, that's very vivid.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
nice.
Your energy is going through your hands and then it smooths out through your
Yeah.
fingertips. How rich is that for being aware of what's going on in your body? That's beautiful. I love that.
I had never actually realized that.
Yeah.
I do this a lot, and I'm thinking, upset.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's fine,
yeah.
it smooths out my hands.
Smooth them out. All right, what about, oh yeah, our head, inside of our heads. I wonder how inside of your head feels right now, your brain.
Heavy.
Full.
Heavy, full, those are, yeah. Is that
So full of
feel like too much? Are you okay? It's okay if it's too much.
It feels normal.
So it feels full, but it's normal. It's a normal amount of fullness.
Yeah.
Okay, in your head. Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Anyone else want to talk about what inside of their head is feeling like?
I'd say like foggy.
Foggy.
It's like the post lunch
Yeah.
feeling.
Mhm.
Mine kind of feels like, you know, the toys, the ball popper toys, the toddlers like to fish around.
Oh my gosh.
Mine actually feels like that inside my head.
That's a very vivid description. Yeah.
Very
Yeah. Is it too much? Are you okay? Or
Is it like gentle pops or are they bouncing off?
yeah.
The hard plastic shell.
Yeah.
And that's normal too much.
Okay. Yeah. And then just having that to come back to too, is the popping getting bigger? Is it getting smaller? And just having that as a point to return to in the future to increase your feelings and bringing words to that, bringing that to your prefrontal cortex. Let's try shifting the way our heads feel. Let's try shaking our head really fast side to side. Ooh.
Yeah.
Anyone want to describe how that felt?
We were just saying, we can't do that.
Too much.
Yeah, the
Okay.
thought of it is too much.
Yeah.
I can't even bring myself to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I apologize. I should have said before this happened that if any of this feels, because sometimes for people it does feel like too much to tune in. So you don't have to do. Sorry, I'm really sorry. This feels like too much. It's just an activity you can do. I wonder about like if anybody did that, what that felt like to them, the shaking.
One thing that I do that isn't really good for me is I tense one of the muscles in my neck. I think it's towards the back, and my head vibrates. Like, it's not good for me in the slightest, but it puts the pressure on, I'm guessing, multiple muscles. They fight back and forth, which makes my head vibrate.
Yeah. How's it feel to you?
Nice.
Feels good. Okay.
Why is it not good for you?
Well, it kind of makes the muscles hurt because they don't like fighting each other, and I'm guessing that that isn't what they were meant for.
I wonder if that sensation feels good and it feels like the muscles in your neck are, it sounds like fighting. I wonder if you can get that feeling in a different way. That's okay. Like maybe putting vibration in your head. Yeah. But that's good awareness of how your body responds to sensations.
I had a quick thought, just because I'm not an OT, but you know, when the three of us didn't wanna, shake our heads.
Yeah.
I think about kids that maybe can't verbalize why they would wanna participate.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like gym classes and kids that quote won't participate or quote being difficult, and it might be a big interoceptive thing, like I don't wanna do that because I'm gonna feel a certain way. They can't tell us that, so they're just gonna run, or they're gonna just drop to the ground, or they're just gonna not participate.
Or even in the classroom, like I can think of looking at the board and then looking back to take notes and looking at the board. That's about a head movement too.
Yeah.
Like there's all sorts of places that show up.
So I think, I wonder if a lot of the quote refusal is interoceptive.
Yeah, I think, so Dr. Ross Green coined the term kids do well when they can. And I am a big, big believer in that. And if a kid is not doing something, I hate the word non-compliant or being difficult because they're doing what they can right now. And it's my job as the adult to see that and to make it feel okay enough for them to keep going.
Yeah.
All right, maybe no more head things. If anybody's comfortable, I want to see what it feels like to, you can stay seated, move your head upside down.
Oh yeah, I like.
See, I'm like open to doing that.
I should back up to when I shake my head back and forth, I feel like my brain feels jiggly
Yeah.
inside my brain. Anyone want to talk about what they feel like when their head is upside down? Heavy?
You have to come back up.
I know exactly. That's so good, right?
So something that felt
It probably
good.
settles the ball. Yeah.
So, yeah, it feels oxygenated.
Okay, yeah, so like, I know like after a lot of deep breathing, my head feels lighter. I wonder if oxygenated feels lighter to you, or if you use a different word. Soothe. Okay,
Yes.
that's a nice word.
Full.
Soothe.
Well, supple.
Supple, a nice supple brain.
I like a supple brain.
That sounds nice.
All right. So some other interoceptive awareness builders is to take real life situations in the moment where a child is probably experiencing an internal shift. So again, we don't know what it's like to be in that child's body, but with what we can see, we can make a pretty good guess that they're feeling something different than before. So again, making an objective observation and then curiously checking in can help them to build that interoceptive awareness. So for the child on the bottom left, I might say something like, whoa, you're doing some really big movements. I see you're smiling, you're moving fast. Are you feeling excited? Or for the child in the middle, I also wanted to point out too that if a child is really distressed and dysregulated, that is not the time to teach. And that is not the time to for them to take in information and learn. But so with that child, it looks like they fell down and they're really upset. So what I would probably do is go over to the child and use my nervous system to ground them. I'll talk more about co-regulation in a little bit. But I might get down and help them feel better in whatever way works for them. Maybe I'd say, when they felt okay enough, they're feeling better. I might say like, whoa, like you fell down. It's like you bumped your hip. Ouch. You were crying. You're holding your knee. How does your hip feel? And use that to draw attention. They might be probably feeling some residual effects from that. And with learning about and thinking about pain and all the different sensations that are options for describing that, that can be used to build interoceptive awareness. I had another comment on that too, but, oh yeah, so there is evidence that to help with building emotional resilience, what we do is allow a child to feel an emotion. So allowing a child to feel that rise and that fall and have that experience, and we can help them through that. We can be there for them and comfort them, but acknowledging that and letting them notice that helps them to understand that emotions come and they're felt and then they pass by. Something that comes with very good intentions from adults that I was modeled and I had to break myself a habit of is if a child is really distressed or having a big emotion, telling a child, you're okay, it's okay, you're okay. We do that. I was taught to do that. I was modeled to do that, and it took a long time for me to break that. But telling a child when they're okay, when they are visibly not okay, is a mismatch for their internal experience, and that does not help to build interoceptive awareness. So, for this child too, comforting them, and saying like, wow, like that looked like that hurt. Or if a child was really mad, like, helping them through that, but then saying like, that was really, like, you were mad. And just noticing that, and helps them to know and feel that emotions are transient. They come and they go. And then, a nice one that I like too is the sensations that come along with thirst. If a child is saying thirsty or indicating that they're thirsty, just taking, if they're not super dysregulated or overwhelmed by it, saying like, oh, like, I wonder how your mouth is feeling. I wonder how your throat is feeling, and just having them draw attention to that, because they might not really think about that body-based sensation. They just might automatically know, like, I need water or whatever. And then noticing when they're taking a drink, oh, how does your mouth feel now? Like, does it feel wet? And then after, oh, does your mouth feel better now? Are you still thirsty? So noticing, like, I need something, doing something about it, making that change, that can be a really nice, daily tune in to those changes within their bodies. So interoceptive, adding up all those different clues inside of our body to equal a body state. So, forcing someone is excited. Excited might feel different based on different situations and different contexts and different sensations inside of our body. So, what does it really feel like inside of your body to be happy? There are different types of happy, or feel disgusted or afraid. And having all those different experiences and, bringing language to it, bringing it to our prefrontal cortex can help map out all these vivid experiences, help us to label them. There's a term from Dan Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson called name it to tame it. And if we can't name it, we can't tame it. So starting with, what am I feeling? Let's label it. Let's tame it down by calling it what it is, can help it feel more safe. So again, regulation, I think some people came in a bit ago, but how I define regulation is moving away from a state of overwhelm. So co-regulation is also a term that's just thrown out there a lot. Co-regulation is thought to be like the huge impactor for improved self-regulation. It's thought to see that it's said that self-regulation is internalized experiences over time of having that co-regulation. So as a nervous system and a human, if I see somebody distressed or overwhelmed, I pick up on that. And it shifts me. But then, you know, if I can be aware of that inside of my body, and if I can shift myself down and feeling more anchored and know what I need for that, I can co-regulate. I can bring down that other person. So co-regulation is sharing our anchored, grounded state with a dysregulated person or a person who's moving toward dysregulation and bringing them back. So hopefully with my talk about interoception, you can see how our own interoceptive awareness will help with that and helping everyone around us by being a better, stronger co-regulator. So I have some handouts that you all can take. It talks about some of the different strategies that we went over and some others as well. So one thing that I did not talk about is having some alternative terms for internal experiences or sensations. So again, you know, different things resonate with different people. Maybe for somebody, giving a number to a specific sensation really resonates with them. Maybe I feel like a 5 in my head right now, and maybe a little bit later I'll feel like a 7. I don't know. But if it means something to that person and they can take it and they can know what that means and feel that shift, then that's what's important. Oh, am I going over? Sorry.
It's okay.
I didn't time myself. It was so fun. And then like, you know, there's some more common terms like objects or animals. So like I feel like a fierce lion in my stomach. So right now, how do you feel? Hopefully you think of that question differently now. So hopefully you learned something today. Again, I'm Emily Brunig with Owl Therapy Services.